Welcome to Thriving in Construction, where we share insights, inspire growth, and break down barriers in the construction industry. I am your host, Patricia Bonilla, CEO of Lunacon Construction Group. Let's build a brighter future together. Welcome to Thriving in Construction, the podcast. Today, we're joined by Coralee Beatty, a trailblazer in the construction industry with over 25 years of experience. After successfully building and selling her trades business, Coralee now dedicates her career to empowering women in construction and trades. And through her fractional CEO services, she also helps businesses strengthen leadership and develop top quality company culture. Coralee is also the author of Hiring Secrets for Trades and Construction, the ultimate guide to find, hire, and retain talent, and a sought-after speaker and trainer. She has shared her expertise on podcasts and industry stages, inspiring others to seize the vast opportunities available in the construction industry. Join us as we delve into Coralee's inspiring journey and uncover valuable insights for creating profitability, flexibility, and freedom in construction businesses. Thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited to interview you, to learn about you. I got your book, but I haven't been able to read it because I haven't received it. I ordered it.
Okay.
But I told you before that I would want to probably invite you back so we can discuss it more because it's a very interesting journey, what you have gone through. And I would like to share more of that. So with that said, can you please share with the audience who you are, your background, where are you coming from? I'd like to learn more about you.
Okay. It's a long history, especially in the construction industry. I'm gray for a reason because I've got some experience and years behind me. But I started in the construction industry almost 30 years ago, and that was after attending university for 3 years. It was actually my fourth year of university, not taking anything related to construction. I was doing criminology and psychology, and I realized the work that I was doing, I was like, I don't understand the people that I wanted to work with. I wanted to work with youth in the criminal justice system. And I came from a very nice, comfortable background. And these kids lived a life in their first 10 years that in my 20 years at the time, I had at all understand where they came from. So there were some experiences that I had through working with these kids that I was just like, I can't do this. So I actually dropped out of university. I was seeking something else first. I'm like, what else am I going to do instead? Maybe I should check out construction because the construction has been something I'd loved my whole life. And it was never a consideration for me to pursue it as a career. It wasn't. I loved looking at buildings and floor plans and, just how things went together. I loved it. And it's so funny that I just never clicked in. It was like I was a girl and I went and did psychology and that's just what you did. So when I was at the point where I was like, okay, what I wanted to do wasn't for me. That's when I was like, okay, what about construction? That's when I quit university. I quit my job that I had. And within a weekend, I went from a completely different life to this construction path. And that was in the early mid 90s that I did that. Since then, I started out as a building envelope technician with a multinational engineering firm. That was where my construction started. We had a leaky condo crisis here on the West Coast, and I was in the thick of that. That's where my career started. And then I met my husband in the early 2000s, and we started I guess there's a little bit of history, but we ended up, starting a plumbing. He was a plumber by trade. So we started a plumbing business that turned into plumbing and HVAC. And we had that business for 15 years. And then we sold that at the end of 2017. And since then, I've been giving back to the construction industry, helping business owners, the help that I needed when I was there and I didn't know where to look, where to go, how to find it. That's what I started giving back, because I know when I started, I found coaches when I had my business. I didn't even know they existed. And when I found them and hired and started working with them, I was just like, oh, why didn't I know about this sooner? And so I wanted to give that relief back. And especially I started working specifically with women business owners, because I think with women, you can join these coaching groups and you're surrounded by a bunch of dudes. Like everybody's a guy. You're as a business owner, as a female business owner in the construction industry, you are one of very few. And so in these coaching groups, you're kind of the only one. And what I recognized is we can do business all day long, and that's great. However, as a woman, you can't address the needs of a woman by just addressing her business. She has a house that she runs. She has kids that she thinks about. She has this whole other part of her life that if you don't consider that, I don't think you're really addressing the whole issue or condition or experience that women have as business owners in the industry. And that's the gap that I wanted to fill, because I was doing well with my business. And then there was the other part of my life that I was just trying to figure out at the same time. And I wanted to bring those two things together and serve the whole person. And my business has evolved since then over the last kind of 5 years. Some hard days figuring out what I'm going to do next. You sell your business, you lose your identity. And that's really what happened to me. It was very difficult.
Changing identity
Mm-hmm.
is probably one of the most difficult things to overcome. Changing
Absolutely.
it, creating the old and creating a new one that is aligned to where you want to go. Because you can create one, but it might not get you to where you want to go.
Well, and that's the thing. When I sold my business, it was like everything stopped at that point. It happened so quickly. I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what my dreams were anymore. I didn't know what my goals were anymore. And that was the hardest part, because I'm so goal oriented and very driven by going towards something. I didn't have that. And that was the hardest part, because, now I'm a mom, but my business was gone. I felt so out of alignment with who I thought I was. And I didn't even know who that was anymore, because it changed so much. The identity thing just disappears. And you're like, oh, that was not done very well.
I'm very much aligned with you, but the only difference is I'm still in the business, but I've been creating who I want to become. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I'm still, my journey from going from an operator to a business owner without exiting the business, it's a different identity. Not being the one that you solve all the problems. And that has been a journey of 4 years for me. We're very much aligned. And in that process about all the women's roles, because I totally agree with you. People believe that we're a different creature in many ways. And I believe that in general, women want to be really well being a wife, a friend, a mother, a daughter, a business owner. And then that's why I wrote a book. It's called Be Who You Long For. So I learned about you and I saw that you were doing this work. And then the book that you have behind you, that I was so curious to understand with that journey and then trying to give back. What do I do next? It's my first question. When did it click? I'm soul searching, probably doing some healing. Why don't you do what you want to do? Understanding more about you, how to influence you so you can influence other people. This is what I want to do.
It was very much like a light switch. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. It was like May 18th. So it was like a year and a half after we sold. And I was laying in my bed, just thinking, like, I'd been going through so many hard days. Just what am I going to do? Because I knew I could do anything. Like, how do I want to give back? How do I want to make a difference? How can I, all of the things. And it was like this light bulb moment for me where I was like, oh, like, I want to be a coach for women in construction and help them. But no, it was like, I wanted to be a coach. I recognized in me that I was a wife and I was a mom and I was a business owner. I was all of those things, but I lost who I was. Like, who was Coralee? And I had no idea. I could not answer that question. That's what I had been struggling with for so long. In the journey that I was going to be taking to get out of the rut, the very deep pit that I felt like I was in, it's just, I have the freedom right now to take the time to do the things that I need to do to become who I want to be, whatever that is, figure it out first. And then to help other people do it. That was where it started, like to help women reclaim their identity, not just be the mom, the taxi drivers, the wife, and all of those things, but just to be who you are. So that was where it started. So right away, I looked into coaching and figured it out. And my thought was I would do life coaching. And so I started doing some research. And then I did a coaching program that wasn't life coaching specific. It was generic coaching. And so I learned about a lot of different things. When I started doing the coaching, I recognized that I really missed the business part of everything that I did. And so I thought I'll work with business owners, women business owners, because again, it brings back those two things, which was also me. Again, I was a business owner and I was a mom and a wife, blah, blah, blah. How do I bring these things together and help other people be able to differentiate who they are versus all of their other roles? And eventually, through probably another year, it took me to really claim my niche at the time, which was women business owners in the construction industry. Because as you can imagine, it was a small niche. And I had this fear around claiming such a small, what I considered a small piece of the pie and it's so small. But then at the same time, for the reason I left university like 20 years previously, I couldn't identify with the people I wanted to help. It came full circle. These are the people I could identify with because I was one of them. That was the full circle moment, was where I was like, okay, this is what it is that I need to be doing because this is who I am. I understand it. I got my way through it. I survived my business. I sold my business. At the point we sold our business, it wasn't like I was free from the business. We were putting systems in place and everything was getting organized and we were well on our way. I learned what it looked like to have a business and not, like you said, just be an operator within the business. And that's what I wanted to share. There is an answer. There's a way through. And I know that if I didn't have my coach and my consultants, I wouldn't have been able to do it because I just spent so much time beating my head against the wall. What am I going to do next? How am I going to figure this out? What's most important? And when I had somebody there and said, okay, this is what we need to focus on. This is what we need to get organized. Let's start here. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And that was a game changer. And I wanted to be that game changer for other women.
That's amazing. The business. If you were to, because I know your book is focused on trade. Why did you select to focus on hiring trades? Is that because
it's trades and construction in general. Truthfully, a lot of the principles are very universal. Because my background is in construction, I did commercial, residential construction. I was a consultant on construction sites. I understand how a building goes together. I understand construction. That's where my background started. And then we had a trades business. So it's for both. And I see that whether you are in a construction or if you're like in actually a general contractor, an architect, a designer in the trades, whatever component of the industry you are contributing to, I see it as all being very similar in that, business foundation, you need to know your mission, your vision, your values. That's your starting point. In construction and trade specifically, it's what I know and it's what I grew. That's what I built. And so I could use my stories, my experiences that people could actually, relate to and understand. And that's why it is very construction and trades related. However, the concepts themselves are not necessarily industry specific.
What would you say along this journey, because you started a business with your husband and I'm pretty sure you had a lot of ups and downs and you had to fall and come back and disappointments, but then you exited. If you were to advise someone, what are the 2 to 3 elements that are most important to make sure that you are profitable? That you could say, I am a healthy and profitable company. What are the 2 main or 3 main areas of focus?
Number 1 is your people. Hands down, it's your people. You need to hire people that you trust, that you can delegate to. My experience and the experience with everyone I talk to is that we do too much ourselves. We take on too much ourselves and we become the bottleneck. We feel like we have to hold on and control everything. It's like this fear-driven, if I don't know exactly what everybody is doing, it's all going to fall apart and it's on my head and I'm a failure.
Right.
And so I think hiring people that you can trust to delegate to, that you can trust to leave alone and just let them do their work. I think that is probably the number 1 thing. And in doing that, you need to learn how to become a good leader. You cannot have really great people and not be a great leader and keep those people. So I think that those are the 2 things. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't matter what you do. If you can't find good people or you can't keep good people, you'll be forever spinning your wheels. You will never grow. You will never advance because you're always defaulting to the skill level of your people. If you get a good, solid group of people that you can grow with, that is what can contribute to growth and success in your business. If you just have constant turnover, you can't grow. And so that's 2 things. That's why I wrote the book, how to find, hire, and retain top talent. And then the other thing that I do where I'm focusing more of my attention these days is on developing people and developing leaders. It's not just as a business owner being a leader, but it's like the tradespeople who are on the ground doing the work, helping them to lead themselves. And that's kind of the starting point, to lead yourself first, and then how to lead other people, and then how to lead within a business. Those are the 3 levels that I see. And even if you're not a business owner, like the training that I do for people within a business is more of an entrepreneurial thing where you're inside the business, helping people to learn how to make good decisions and what you're considering and just putting them in a business mindset so that they can make good decisions based on what the company's doing and what you want to do. Those would be my two top things.
So for you is people and leadership, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And can a company lose money even if you have good people and great
Oh,
leaders?
oh, of course you can. Because the reality is, if you're not clear on your mission, vision, values, for one, and the cost of doing business, because one of the things that I really advocate for is giving your people as much as you can. Like, give them as much time off as you can, pay them as much as you can, give them as many benefits as you can. And the caveat there is as you can, because I'd love to be able to pay my people $75 an hour or $100 an hour, whatever it is. And I need to make sure that my business can support it. Because at the end of the day, you don't have a business if you don't have profit. So yes, absolutely. You know, you need to be able to know what you charge, like know what your each employee costs. You need to know what your business costs to run. Like if you want to talk about the very basics, I guess that would be it. When I think about to get a business to be successful, you need to have the right people. But
No,
to be profitable, absolutely. In the beginning, you need to know your costs. You need to know the cost of your people, and you need to be able to make sure your bottom line is positive.
right. And so also in that line, processes.
Yeah.
I believe processes, even if you have actually great people, also want to have processes and be measured.
Mm.
So the more you grow, the more processes, the more money you make. And you said it, you guys did that at the end of your journey as a company, focusing on processes and measuring from what I heard, right?
Absolutely. That's like once you start to learn what's important to understand about your business, like what your numbers and looking at them regularly, whether that is daily, weekly, monthly, depending on what numbers you're talking about, being able to track your numbers, understand them. Like there's no point in collecting data if you don't know what you're collecting it for. But, collect the data, understand and make decisions based on the data. That's how you run a profitable business. And I think that you can have a multi 8-figure business and still have a mess. That's the thing, that you can make 10, 20 million in revenue and not be profitable. Like that's the piece that gives you the opportunity to scale wherever from where you are, is to understand and to really control your numbers and put them into perspective as where you go. Because like I always used to say, or as I always do say, is that whatever your mess is, you just multiply your mess. If you could just increase your revenue, like just hire people and try to buy your way out of the mess, you just multiply your mess. You cannot increase your revenue enough to save you if you don't have the processes in place.
I have a coach that says you cannot grow. What's the point of growing a cancer?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
if you have a cancer in your business, why do you want to grow it?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty powerful. So in the process of hiring, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to understand how to do this well. And so what are the elements that you consider to hire properly the right person? Because like the book says, it's who, not how.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you hire? The right person on the right seat? How do you retain them? What's the process that you would follow for you or for anyone that is listening?
Yeah. So hiring doesn't start with your job post. Hiring starts with your organizational chart. So you need to be really clear on what position you're hiring for and what that position is responsible for. If you just say that you want to hire a carpenter, for example, what exactly are they going to be responsible for? What are their deliverables and what are they accountable for? Those are really important to understand, because what you're going to do is you're going to take that information, you're going to create your job post from that. However, before you create your job post, what you also need to understand is the ideal person that fits that role. Just like you create the avatar for your ideal client, create the avatar for your ideal candidate for this position, and know what language they use, know what it is that they want, understand what drives them. If you create a post for somebody who you think wants to just get paid a lot of money, but somebody's real value is to be family oriented and maybe have a little bit of flexibility, those two things aren't going to jive. So if you create the ideal avatar of your candidate, like who that ideal candidate is, then you take that information and then you create your job post. because you say, what is the language they use? What are their values? What do they want to be? What kind of position do they want? What title do they want? Because maybe they want to be known as, like, maybe they're going to be coming in as a leader, but they're going to want a different kind of title. It's understanding and considering these things of what the person is that you're trying to attract. Because ultimately, if you do it well, you will attract your ideal candidate and repel anybody who is not that person. That's the goal. And so that's, once you start getting in applications, resumes, whatever, I always recommend pre-qualifying, whether it's by a phone call or asking for a video or something that's going to weed people out who aren't really serious about working for you. Because the person you want to hire, and yes, this goes for all positions in your industry. I don't care if it is a laborer on your job site or if it is a project manager or hire. This goes for all positions. I don't take lightly hiring any position, because you can bring in a laborer because you're like, oh, it's just a laborer. He's just going to be on site. He's just going to be doing this or that, whatever. And the reality is that person can come in and can destroy all that you have built really quickly. You need to be mindful of it. Like, just don't hire frivolously and don't hire just because you need a warm body. Really take the time to make sure it's a good fit. It doesn't have to be a forever fit. You don't have to be hiring people who are going to be with you for the length of their career. Hire people that have good traits that you can train the skill, but you can't train those traits of hardworking, good character. Like, who is that you want for your business? And you can train skill that you can train.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And so when you mentioned you can hire, I agree. There's people that we all have things that we value and vehicles that we use to obtain what makes us happy. And you mentioned some people are driven by the priority in their lives is their family or freedom of time. And some people really value money, and it's hard to do both. Now, how do you distinguish? Isn't that affected by the culture of the business? How do you deal with someone that a group of people you might have in the same team on a project, somebody that is driven by money, somebody that is driven by family? So how do you cope with that?
I think it comes back to hiring in accordance to your own values, because whatever you value as a company, that's what you're going to be highlighting. Those are the type of people. And it doesn't have to be, I value money, you value money, or I value family, you value family. Values that are in alignment or that complement each other. And so when you're hiring in alignment with your values, they will match the people that you're bringing in, because you're going to have people that you didn't consider these. If you start doing this, it's going to start looking very different. So you're going to have to start letting go of the people that don't match your values. So ultimately it comes to the company values and finding people who have complementary values to what it is that you want to build within your culture. And just by nature of doing that, you're going to find people who also share values. So if it's something that you are promoting, that you're a family oriented type of business and you want to attract people who are also family oriented or who value, that type of environment, then that's the people you're going to end up hiring. These things all kind of work together. You're not going to hire people with values that are different than those of your company. And that's why it's really important to start with understanding your mission, your vision, and your values. Like, without that information, it's very difficult to build anything intentionally, and it all becomes by default, and that gets messy.
Even hiring your client.
Yes.
They have to align with that too. The culture they have. Talk to me about culture. Like Peter Drucker, who I love to cite, says that culture is strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
Which is absolutely true. You can have you can have amazing people in an organization, but if you have a messy culture and even though you have an amazing strategy and you've spent a lot of money to come up with a plan, objectives and KPIs and stuff like that, without the right culture, it's not going to work. And you can lose a lot of money in the process. So how do you transfer that knowledge to people that you're coaching?
Actually, one of my coaches says, your dreams and goals need to be big enough to hold all the dreams and goals of the people on your team. And I think that is a really powerful statement, because when you understand that you need to be dreaming big enough to hold the dreams of those A players that you want, it gives you a perspective of what the size that you need to really be dreaming or thinking or going for. when you can care about your people in a way that is like when you're hiring them, again, this comes back to the mission, vision, and values. You share your mission and your vision for your company with the people that you want to hire. So before you hire them, they need to buy into what it is that you want to build. Like have them be excited about the potential with you in your company for their future. Ultimately, whether you are hiring people or even on the other side, you're a person that is applying for a job. So as an employer, I need to know what it is that that person wants. If it's somebody that I really want on my team, I need to understand what drives them and feed that. And just like an employee going to apply for a job in an interview, like that, it's understanding, because ultimately we're humans and we're only ever interested in what's good for us. That's what it comes down to. And if you can understand that and feed that, then you'll be successful.
I agree with that too. So it's ideal if you are starting a company and you're hiring. Let's say you're not mindful about culture, you're not mindful about people, you don't have do this. You started a company, because that's my case. I had to change the culture when I decided to focus on people. And it really was something that I love people. I want to help people so much. You might not be equipped to do it when you start a company. And so when you don't have this and you haven't had the coaching and so on, that's why I also became a mentor too, because I know how absent it is from an entrepreneur's life. And so when you realize that this is the way you want to go, or if you're buying a company and the culture isn't there, you were not involved in the hiring process, you're not involved in the onboarding process, you already have a ton of people in front of you. It's hard to say, I'm going to fire everyone and I'm going to start from scratch, especially in construction, especially when you're doing commercial work. It's sometimes they last a few years. So you don't want to necessarily disrupt the performance of a project or the client with changing people in the process. It's pretty disturbing. Somebody might not be the right fit for you. It doesn't fit with my culture. I am having an issue. It's really hard to let people go for an entrepreneur, although they always say fire quickly and hire slowly. So I have two questions. How do you go about it? What is your recommendation for someone going through that process? And I'm pretty sure you might have gone through that yourself. And then how do you deal with somebody that you know it's a person that is affecting your company miles per minute? It's affecting and disturbing you, and you're losing money. People are walking out. You're not able to hire the really good fit because this person is undermining your culture. So how do you do that? What would be a great strategy? Simple strategy. Simple doesn't mean easy.
Yes, great and simple. Ultimately, if somebody is undermining your culture, they need to go right away. You don't want to lose 10 people to save one. I don't care how skilled they are. They need to go as soon as possible. Now, when you have people that don't fit and they're not disrupting, they're just going to be somebody that needs to go. What I'd say is take your list of people and categorize them and basically say, where do they fit? What's their position? Are they a good fit? You're going to be ranking them basically in order of disruption and performance, because ultimately you can keep some people for a long time without too much damage. I agree. You can't just clean the slate. Believe me. I wish when I learned all this, I could have just cleaned the slate. We had 18 plumbers and HVAC. We had 18 techs at the time. I couldn't just clean the slate. There was a lot that weren't great fits. And so we needed to be very strategic in maintaining the culture that we were building and letting them go as we could. Because also the other piece of this is replacing them. You could say it could be challenging. I'm somebody who is all about mindset. I truly believe you get what you expect. If you think it's going to be hard, it's going to be hard. If you think it's going to be manageable and easy or whatever, then it's going to be more manageable and easier. I always encourage people to get rid of the ones that people are always complaining about, or that is slowing down the team, or that is creating the bottleneck and not willing to change, isn't open to growing, isn't open to learning. Any of those things that's really going to damage your growth as a company, I think you need to get rid of those as soon as possible. Like I said, is just prioritizing the impact that they're having on your business, and then just start at the top or bottom, however you create your list, and just start removing them. If a project's coming up, just plan that project without that person, or find somebody else, be on the look for somebody who can replace positions 1, 2, and 3. However you're going to do it, it'll just depend on the work you're doing, like you said, the length of the projects, the impact that person will have on the project. Because ultimately, I think that if you have that person undermining your culture, even if they're in a very important role on a very big project, I think that everybody will be better off removing them. You can have a scarcity mindset. I can't let go of this person because they have this really important position, and if I let them go, then everything's going to break. Or you can look at it the other way. It's like, I can't wait to get rid of this person because the opportunity I have to bring in somebody who's going to fill this position the way I need them to, and actually give us the opportunity to make more money and be better. Like, it's your mindset. Is it scarcity and I can't let go of these people? Or is it abundance? Is I have to create the space. I need to let them go to create the space for what it is that I want to bring in. When you hold on to something for too long, you're not allowing the better things to come in.
Absolutely. And so let me ask you, you work with your husband.
Yes. Yes, I wanted to fire him.
Did you ever think about someone that was not a fit that you wanted to let go, but he was not in agreement or he couldn't see it?
No. What it was more like the other way around, actually, is when in the beginning, it was more like the middle years when I was still doing everything in the office and I wanted to hire an administrative helper. He was just like, no, we can't. I'm like, I can't continue to do all this on my own, because it was really, everything was emergency. There were so many invoices not sent out because they weren't big enough. I need to be invoicing 10,000 plus to make any kind of difference. So all of those few $100 ones just never got billed because I didn't have the time. It's just like the time came, and so I'm like, I can't keep doing this. Like, there's things that we need to do to grow. And his position was, we can't bring people into our mess. And it's like, I agree. It's embarrassing. And at the same time, it's not going to change without bringing somebody in to help me. So it wasn't until we actually, and it was right around the same time, but when we did find a coach, when we brought on a coach, and I was like, can you please tell Graham that we can hire somebody? And they're like, you need to hire somebody, because we were over $1 million in revenue at the time. So I think we were like at 1.2 or something like that. There was a lot, and with the volume of work that we were doing, it's like, for me to be the only person doing all the back end stuff was ridiculous. It should never get to that point. It was the other end where I was like, and so when they said to him, yes, you need to hire someone, he's like, okay. And so that was the beginning of everything being different for us.
Who of the two is more not scarcity driven, but skeptical? Who is the one that jumps in first, and who is the one that has to process?
I am a feet first, jump, grow your wings on the way down. He is just a hold on a minute. Let me think about this. I'm like, okay, while you're thinking, I'm going. Like, he definitely likes to process and picture and see and do, as far as see how this is all going to play out. I'm very much a decide now and figure it out later. That's how we ended up with 4 kids, I guess. So, we're going to have another kid.
That affect in your relationship? Did it affect your relationship, being the fact that sometimes, even if he wasn't in agreement, you decided to take on action, but when you were home, how did that affect or not affect your relationship?
We have a very good relationship in that we have a high level of appreciation and a very high level of respect for each other's strengths. And his strengths we're very different. Like, he's the chatty, he's very good at sales, he's very good at marketing type of stuff. Like, he is, and he's very technically driven like that. He's very good at what he's very good at. And I'm very good at everything else. So we like, I think one of our greatest benefits is that we complement each other so well as far as what one does in the other, and we recognize where the strengths lie. So it's not often where we step on each other's toes, and we defer to the person in that strength to make the decision. So where I'm very process oriented, operations oriented, decision making, he always allows me to make those decisions. And so when you come home, it's like, okay, we need to do this, we need to do this, and we need to do this. I'll be saying, these are things that need to get done, and he's the doer. He's like, okay, I'll get them done. Like, he gets those things done. So I think that it works well because we are so different. Like, it's just, if we were both like type A personalities, because that's very much me, I'm learning to let go. Like, I am so proud of myself. Like, the ability to let go of control, that's been a huge evolution for me personally. to be able to let go of that. But where I have always liked to, I plan and I like to control the way things go and I like things to be predictable. He's very much kind of not that way. So it works well. It works well. I know that
he
go ahead.
flows with water.
Yes,
and
exactly.
he gives you that calmness that sometimes maybe you need.
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself a relatively, like, I go with the flow. Not too much ruffles my feathers. I'm very easygoing. I don't get worked up about things. I don't worry about things. I truly, wholly, completely believe that everything will always work out because that's been my experience. Like where I say you get what you expect, I say that because I live it. Yeah. I get what I expect. And I recognize when I get something I don't want, it's like,
so true.
I'm getting what I was expecting. So yes,
you're like, okay, when did I create this thought?
Yes. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I think we need more of that in our industry.
Oh, so much more. Like so many people are driven by the scarcity. Like there's no people, there's no jobs, there's no money, there's no work. There's like, no. And I'm just like, there is. And when you switch the way you think about it, like there's so much work and there's so many people. You build a business where people want to work and you will be turning people away. Like it really is a mindset, and you need to understand that there is so much success and it comes down to how you think about it.
It's totally about abundance mindset. Absolutely. But there's a lot of scarcity. I'm a firm believer that the scarcity driven mindset that the industry holds, it's one of the biggest poison that we need to show up as a different example.
Agreed.
And it's my belief that if so construction has statistically second highest rate in suicide along with mining. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, yes, I do. That's part of the work I do. I actually wrote a white paper called, what is it called? It's Mental Health in Construction Industry. It's a starting point for employers. It's on my website and it's free for anybody. It's where to start to help improve the mental health condition of our industry. Yes, I'm definitely aware of the stats.
And I am passionate about it. And I hear that when you started to think about what do I do with my life, professionally speaking, behavioral was an interest of your soul, let's say, of you. Then you change to construction, but this industry has allowed you also to mix the two, from what I hear.
Exactly.
And so, have that been the case, and with your experience and passion about the well-being of people, what would you recommend a company that, it's majority, 90%, it is what it is, it's men.
Yeah.
And men deal with challenges differently than women. They don't have the group of the network sometimes that we have, the group that we talk to when we at least talk about it.
Yeah.
What do you say an employer can do? Because people don't like to talk about mental illness, and it's a taboo. Yeah. What do you think they can do when you notice there's somebody having a hard time? Number one, and the other one is for being proactive. You're building this culture, and this issue is present in the society, in the world, period.
Yeah.
And the industry is very stressful because the way it's been designed. How do you recommend, would you advise a company to set up themselves, their culture, their hiring process, the people process, to deal with that, to give people an opportunity to get out of in the journey in that company, become better in their own lives, considering that we spend a lot of time in companies where we work? How can we contribute to a transformation?
One, you could hire me to do the training for your people, because that's exactly what I do. But notwithstanding that, I think what's really important is to understand about humans in general is that we long for connection. We long to be connected to people. That's what we need. And where we are right now in our society with social media and all of the distractions that we have that pull us away from human connection, it just creates a bigger and bigger void. And I think that is notwithstanding chemical imbalances and all of the things that can lead to more natural depression and mental health conditions. I think that we are deteriorating our own mental health condition by losing the connection with humans. And all it takes is, like, as an employer or a leader in any capacity from that position, all it takes is asking somebody, hey, how are you doing? Or saying, I've noticed you don't seem yourself lately. Is there anything I can do, or do you want to talk? Like, you can do it in a way that is non-threatening, because ultimately the person needs to feel safe to be able to share what it is that that's going on. So you need to really genuinely approach them in a way where you care. You care to understand their condition and what's going on for them. And so I think that even if you have people within your organization, depending on how big you are and how you're set up, like if you have people that just are like the people that have that skill, like maybe they're a carpenter, but they're also really empathetic, whatever, just have people that are kind of the ones that will approach people. And I think training just across the board with I don't want to call it mental health training so much, is just understanding how to approach people. Yeah,
I
it's
call it
giving, yeah, well, it's understanding how to approach hard situations or hard conversations. And when people are in a vulnerable position where they're feeling in the dark space, or they're feeling like they are a threat to themselves or to the other people around them, you can approach them in a way that's non-threatening and helps them feel safe to share what it is that they're going through. So it's approaching them, asking them questions, and not having immediate concerns. Like, it's just the culture of your company is one where you actually care about your people, just care about your people genuinely, and have regular conversations with them. What I always did, excuse me, was when we'd have a performance review and a career development meeting twice a year, and we would have conversations. So I just kind of get a sense in those conversations where people are at. And I always had the privilege of people feeling safe around me. So they shared things that were hard for them. So I always kind of knew if things were going on, and I always had an open door. If I saw that somebody was hanging their head one day and they don't usually, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Or I might take them into, catch up with them in the shop and just say, I noticed that you're not yourself today. Is there anything going on? Did you want to talk about something? Just know that I'm always here for you. Like just letting them know that there is a place that they can go that's safe. It'll take some people some time to actually trust you if they haven't felt that trust before. Just keep doing it. Like, just keep offering it. And eventually they'll recognize that. And we can't save everybody. Like, that's not our job. Our job is to create a space where people know that they can come and talk to us. That's all we can do.
And trust is so crucial, right? So crucial. And you build it intentionally, like you said, from the beginning, because you don't want to wait for crisis. That even is true within your own family, with your own kids.
Yeah.
You want to do it when you don't need it. Having said that, comes to mind culture again, because that is why it's so crucial to have a culture where people feel safe and you're not undermining someone else and criticizing or gossiping.
Yes.
A culture of gossip, it's terrible in an organization, and it needs to be killed, like with a fire gun, fast.
Yeah.
It's so bad. How do you stop it? Because I know how I do it, but I want to learn from you.
I think that one is that if you can create an environment, like if you have a gossiper on your team and somebody that just tends to do that, because the way I see it is that you can have people who like to gossip about other people, or you can have people who like to talk about possibilities and future and growth and becoming better. And I think that if you're stuck in a mindset of gossiping about other people, it's because you've often, I won't say sweeping statement because I can't say that, is because you yourself feel insecure or not as confident or whatever, low self-esteem. I think that those are the people who gossip more because they need to feel like other people's lives are worse than their own. If you turn it around and start thinking about possibility and growth and where you want to go and the things you want to do and the experiences you want to have, when you start thinking in that direction, I think that eliminates the gossip part. Now, that is kind of the mindset difference. And within your organization, there's going to be people who are going to buy into just the way you talk about growth and possibility and the way we're going and how we're going to do it. And then there's going to be people who aren't going to buy into that. And when you're making that shift within your culture, again, you already hired a bunch of people and they're not going to be great fits. That would be one of the people that go on the list that maybe that's just the way they are. And at some point they need to be eliminated. I think if you're going to be growing a culture that is healthy and growth minded, whether that be in helping you scale your business or just in their own personal growth, I think that gossip just doesn't fit in. It just doesn't have a place.
And so with that said, I'm still curious about the question of, you find this person that needs to be, it's in the list of they're great human beings, they just don't align with where my company is going. How do you have that crucial conversation that is so difficult sometimes for people, for whatever reason? We're not going to go into that, but how do you have it?
If you have a person that seems like a great fit, except for they have some like flaws that might be able to be changed, it's having a conversation that says, hey, I really enjoy you in the office or in the field or wherever it is. You start by complimenting them for the things that they bring to you and why you enjoy them or appreciate them or what they serve within your business and why you're happy to keep them if they can change these things. So you start with complimenting, thank you for what you've done. Thank you for your contribution. I really like how you did this or that, whatever. And then you say, I've noticed lately, you kind of break into it and you don't point fingers. It's not about what you do or you do this or you do that. Don't do that. Take it from your own perspective. What I'm seeing happening is, or what I'm understanding from these conversations I've seen you have or heard you have or whatever it is, this is the way I interpret it, because you leave it open for them to set it straight, because maybe you're wrong. Maybe you heard something wrong. Maybe you see something wrong. Maybe it's not how it's intended. So the worst thing is like for you to say, you do this or that. And you're like, oh, that's not at all how I meant for it to be. They just didn't know. Like that's, you're just bringing it to their attention that this is how I interpret this behavior. And they may be like, oh, completely did not see it that way. Tell me more, whatever, are they going to be open to the conversation? Do they get defensive and say, well, it depends on the person. Just approach it from your own perspective, because that's what you can control. Those are the facts. I always say any kind of hard conversation needs to come from facts, not from emotion. And when you can approach any conversation from your own factual experience, right or wrong, it's your own, it's what's true to you, and you can relay that in a way with respect, then I think people are more open to having the conversation and seeing things that maybe they didn't see before.
And then when you do that, ask them, how do you see it? What's your experience?
Exactly.
Then the opportunity to share, like you said, what they think you could have been wrong in the perception. At least it gives you an opportunity to open the floor and they don't feel attacked immediately. But that was one of the hardest things for me to learn until I did a training for that. And you are right on the money. It's so important, not because a lot of times we choose not to have the crucial conversation, stay silent, and it just becomes a time bomb inside of you. It is not necessary. It's just lack of tools.
And you can actually save a really good employee you might have some bad habits. Like you can save and turn them into a great employee instead of waiting too long and then just having to get rid of them because it's got to a point that it can't be changed.
With that said, I am so grateful that you have been here. I am really, really grateful because I know you're helping a lot of people already. And this area, it's an area of pain for many people, many businesses, and also a great opportunities, great opportunities.
Exactly.
I have experienced it myself, and life is so different. But we also learn a lot with the people that we attract to our businesses. And as we change, it also changes the people that we attract. So a lot of the responsibility for who we have in a company, it's us, the leaders.
Absolutely. Yes.
And so I'm grateful that you are doing this work, that you're taking all that learning through the School of Hard Knocks, that sometimes costs a lot of money, and you're sharing it with the world. Yes. And I definitely want to hear, I want to hear more, and I definitely want to read your book, and probably do another one. because it's a topic is fantastic. I love the topic about people. So I want to really thank you for being
Thank
so
you.
knowledgeable and so willing to serve and help.
Absolutely. Anything that I can do to help, I'm here for it. So thank you so much for having me and letting me share some of my experience. I appreciate it.
Yes, yes, yes. And do you want to tell people how to find you?
Sure. You can check out my website. It's thrivehq.ca. So yes, I'm Thrive as well. And you can find me on all the platforms, Coralee Beatty. I'm one of one. I'm very easy to find. So thank you so much again, Patricia. I enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others in the construction industry. See you next time on Thriving in Construction, the podcast. Let's keep thriving.
Thank you for listening to Thriving in Construction, the podcast with Patricia Bonilla. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to help support the podcast, please share it with others and leave a rating or review on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. If you have any suggestions or any related topics you would like us to tackle in our future episodes, feel free to reach Patricia by sending her a message on LinkedIn, Thriving in Construction. Thanks for listening. See you in our next episode in Thriving in Construction, the podcast.